Wrist Check Podcast, episode 51.
51.
Woo!
We're doing big things.
Papa's got a brand new bag.
Yes, sir.
We got a special guest tonight, and we're missing our comrade. Shout out to Ben, who couldn't make it this evening.
Shout out to Ben.
But allow us to introduce ourselves, 2/3 of the Wrist Check Podcast. My name is Perry.
And I'm Rashawn.
And we make up the Wrist Check Podcast. Tonight, we got a special guest, New York native, Derek Mon in the house.
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys?
The Minuteman.
The Minuteman.
You might have seen him on Instagram.
Might have.
Yeah, definitely have.
Very prominent on the gram.
King of the reels.
Yes.
Massive respect. How you doing, my man? It's good to have you.
Dude, thank you guys for having me on the show. I've been a fan of you guys, and it's about time we got together and just sat
Heck
down
yeah.
and just chatted it up.
I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to talk about you, obviously. We'll talk about your business, your upbringing in New York, and I'm sure we'll have some laughs. I know you brought some watches for us, too, so I can't wait to get into that.
Yes.
But before we move on, we've got to have our honorary wrist check.
Yes.
I'll start it off. I haven't started off in some time. I'll give my man a break.
Yes, please.
But I am repeating a watch today. If you've seen the last episode with our guest Eric Wynn, you might have seen that I got a new watch, and I can't take it off. So I'm still rocking the Pepsi, and I gotta say I'm really getting used to it.
Yes.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
The beauty. It's funny because there's a couple of guys that have been supporting and following us from the beginning. There's one in particular I won't name because I know he likes to kind of remain anonymous on the gram. But he used to get on us about all the grief we gave Rolex.
Yeah.
And now I get messages from him laughing. And he's like, "Oh, I see you've come around to the dark side."
Yes.
He's like, "You finally get it."
Yes.
And listen, I do. The GMT Master 2 Pepsi is super iconic. I definitely appreciate it for that. But I think there is something to be said about a modern Rolex. It feels like a tank on your wrist without feeling like a tank on your wrist. And what I mean by that is you can feel the build quality. It's robust. It feels like an everyday wear. You can beat it around. You can beat it up. I know some guys like to treat it like it's precious. I don't. I like to treat it like a Rolex, how it was meant to be treated. But at the same time, the case size and the proportions are really nice. And I find it to be very comfortable. I often forget that it's even on my wrist.
Yeah.
And I catch myself sometimes, especially in public, when I might like raise my hand or do something, and I'm like, "Oh, that's out there." Excuse the French. But I am really, really enjoying this. It's been quite nice, and I think I'm fairly certain this is something that's going to stay in the collection. Rashawn, what do you got tonight for us?
So I am repeating a watch. We were talking about me kind of like putting my hat down for the man that doesn't repeat a watch.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense to kind of uphold.
You put that hat down a while ago, my friend.
Yes.
But the thing is that you have watches.
I have watches.
You have a lot of watches.
50 different watches.
More than 50 now.
Yeah.
Damn.
I've got a lot of watches, but there are a few watches that like I love to repeat. Some that I can't take off of my wrist. Some that just like complement what I'm wearing. Some that complement what I'm doing throughout my like everyday life. And this one has been a really good piece to me.
Yeah, you've been wearing that a lot lately. This is the Ulysse Nardin.
Yes,
Nerona Diver.
Yes.
Yeah.
This piece we were talking about it off camera a little bit. One of my absolute favorites. I was very fortunate to get my lucky number. So my lucky number is 12, and Derek's lucky number is 12 as well.
That's right.
Which was very
Still out
funny.
of the loop, guys.
Yeah. And the funny
I don't even
thing
know if
was
I have
like,
a lucky number.
so now the funniest thing is this. So I do have more watches, and I was gonna wear a watch that wasn't on the show, but for some reason I just felt like I had to wear this watch.
That's crazy.
It was like serendipity. It was something clicked and was like, you wear this watch. It worked with the outfit. I've got like, Gore-Tex and like wax cotton.
Sure.
Of course, Nerona is like this like utilitarian or like outdoorsy kind of workwear brand or Arctic brand, whatever you want to call it. So it worked with just the garments I was wearing, and then like something called me. I know Ben's not here, but Ben is someone that like just rolls over, and whatever watch just like comes to him, he like grabs it, he picks it up, and I felt like when I looked at the watch box, the Nerona called me. This is one of Ulysse Nardin's like smallest productions. They do very, very small runs. This is one of the few that are numbered. So 1 of 29, as I said before, my lucky number being 12. This is also UN's most sustainable timepiece. So 100% recycled materials, from the case to the steel that's used to the strap, etc.
It's nice.
So if you aren't familiar with this watch, Ulysse Nardin Nerona, you should look it up and you see all the great things about it.
Shout out to FX.
Yes, sir. Shout out to FX.
Derek, you got a new watch on the wrist.
I'm wearing my latest watch, my latest pickup. So
Yeah, talk about it. This is a good one. So it's
Damn.
funny because we went to an event recently at Ray's
Yep.
in downtown New York City. It was a Hodinkee sort of like watch meet,
Yeah.
and we took a pic that we'll throw up. But you told me you picked up a new piece. Talk about what this is and how you acquired it.
Yeah, so basically at the end of 2022, I had launched a video on my YouTube channel. It was basically my favorite watches of 2022. So I went through stuff from Seiko all the way up to Vacheron Constantin 222. Right before that was the AP Royal Oak 15550, the new 37 millimeter, and then also this one, the 26715. I love the gray dial, and I know a lot of my friends and I know a lot of people always gravitate toward blue dials or green dials, but I personally love the monochromatic look because it just matches everything so easily. I never have to think about what to match with this watch, whereas with the blue dial, you sometimes have to, do that. So I had that on my list. I put my name down at the boutique, and I was really surprised that it was maybe now 3 or 4 weeks ago from today that I actually got the call to come pick it up. And I was like, what the heck? Yeah. Because I like, to be honest, I put my name down at other boutiques for other watches, for other things, and I've never gotten a call back. Yeah. But out of all the people to call me back, it's AP. And I was like, dude, what the? Excuse my French. I was like, holy shit. So that's why I've been like, I'm still in the honeymoon phase, obviously. This watch is just gorgeous. It's the 38 millimeters. It literally fits perfect on my wrist. I'll probably make a video about it. I've been kind of silently enjoying it. Sure. Because I know once probably this episode launches, I already got people hitting me up like, hey, I'll take you out to lunch. I want to hear about your story. Yeah. I want to hear how you got that watch. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So it's already happening, but I mean, that's the nature of the game. But yeah, I'm super excited. And I feel like it just kind of solidified some good milestones that happened already in 2023. We're still really early in the year, it's first quarter, but man, it just feels like the right time at the at the right place kind of thing. So
no, for sure, that's a good call to get.
Yeah.
It's a real good call to get.
It's so funny. So when I hear your voice, right, when I listen to you, I can only just see reels of you. Now, the reason why...
The real Gawd.
It's the real Gawd. The real Gawd. We should make this the name of the episode. The real Gawd.
That's good.
Right? I like that.
Yeah.
Now, the funniest thing is... So,
that's so funny.
My fiance, shout out to Mary.
Shout out to Mary.
Shout out to Mary. She always sends reels of you.
What?
They're good.
Wait, sings?
It's funny. Like, she's always just sending all the videos of you just like reviewing watches, and she loves like your Grand Seiko reviews and things like that. So like, it's so sad that she's not here tonight because she'd love to meet you, but of course we'll, whatever. But when I hear your voice, I think about all your reels, and I'm like, dude, like it's like surreal because you're here and we've been trying to get you here on the show for so long. Like, what's up?
Yo, it's
Well,
Like,
we've been working this out for a while.
Yeah,
It's
for a
really-
long time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Derek's been,
I feel like I know, like, I haven't physically
Is this
met
the first
you.
time you guys have met? in
Yeah, it's
person?
the first time we met.
So that's
no,
why.
we met before.
No, you definitely have.
I
He
met you-
came to the Soho
Yeah, the
House
Soho
show.
House live
Oh,
taping.
shoot,
Yeah,
that's
we've seen
right.
each other.
Well, you were lit
before.
that
Yeah.
night.
That was a different. Yes.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's right.
Yeah. We were
Okay.
hanging out already then.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
when you get two that's right, you
Yeah.
know it was a good night.
Yeah, it was a good night.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned. Well, first, shout out to Mary. Thanks so much for your support. Like, that's so funny. My wife actually says the same thing. Like, we'll be eating dinner, and she's like, and I'll tell her something. She's like, "Can you like not use your video voice? Like,
That's
just talk to
funny.
me normally."
Yeah,
And I'm
right?
like, I don't even know that it turns on. It's like when I'm excited and passionate
Sure.
about something, I just
There
get
it
into like
is.
this flow state, and I just
Yeah.
start talking, and the words just come out, and I'm not even thinking anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, is like people like, because we have a lot more we may have a lot more listeners than we have viewers. So sometimes when people kind of meet me in public, they're like, I know you from somewhere. And it's like, because they heard me
Yeah.
probably more than they've seen me.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So that was kind of like the bridge I was trying to connect. It's like, it's so funny because I hear your voice and I think of your reels, because I know when people meet me in public, they're like, I know you,
Yeah.
but I've never seen you.
Yeah.
Which is so
That's
funny.
a funny thing.
Yeah.
So you are known as the Minuteman on Instagram. That's your handle.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that handle? That's a good one.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Talk
I'm so
about
excited.
branding.
All right, first off,
Yes.
to the viewers at home, I know that the word Minuteman might mean something else to you. I'm very aware of that, but F it. I'm still gonna use that name because
I love it.
my first name Derek, last name Mon. I'd grown up with so many nicknames. Like people would call me Digimon, D-Mon, D-Money. Everything you could use Mon with,
I like
I've had
D-Money.
it. Yeah, D-Money. Yeah. So that's been like my whole life. Actually, my last name Mon, the actual English pronunciation is Meng, M-E-N-G. But when my dad immigrated here from Taiwan, he like phonetically spelled it out. So in Chinese, it's Mong, M-O-N-G. But so he wrote on paper M-O-N. But then you might know like there's a congresswoman whose name is Grace Meng. So
Yes.
I'm actually same last name as her.
Oh wow.
Same like lineage and everything.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the M-E-N-G Meng, that whole like lineage goes back to Mencius, which is obviously a descendant of Confucius. So it's like kind of like in that same kind of
Oh,
realm.
that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's a little backstory of that. But to your question, like, how did the name Minuteman come? I think I saw Rashawn a while ago. You were asking people on your Instagram, like, should I make a personal Instagram and a watch Instagram separate?
I said
That's
that.
literally exactly why I did Minuteman, because I had my personal Instagram, and every once in a while I would like post a watch, and it would be like people I knew growing up, and they would see it. But like if they weren't interested in watches, like they didn't really care. So I was thinking like, well, I want to just talk about watches, and for the people who don't really understand watches, I don't want them to think, like from an outside view, it might seem materialistic or like, that kind of thing. I was like, why don't I just go all in on a page? It was going to be the Watchmon at first, but then I was like, everyone does watch something,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes.
It's like too on the nose. And then it might have been like, I was watching that movie Watchmen, obviously, and I don't know if you guys remember that film.
I
It's like
remember.
the superheroes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
definitely.
like that one.
It's a good movie, and the crew that showed up before Watchmen was called the Minutemen.
Yes.
And then I was like, when I heard that, and then everything
Ding,
clicked.
ding, ding.
Yeah, it's like Minuteman. Even there was like Minuteman printing and like,
Yeah.
and then now today, like we fast forward today, Minuteman like short form video content and my brand just works so well.
It
because
does.
like
Yeah, it really does.
you think of it like you're gonna watch something of my video. I'm gonna give you the information in less than a minute, and
Yep.
it's everything you need to know, and you can move on with your day.
It's awesome.
And I like that. I want to be efficient. I don't want to waste your time, and I only want to show you what I'm interested in too.
Yeah.
In a way.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. So you're a New York native,
Yeah.
raised in Long Island,
Yeah.
right? And you found yourself in the midst of your family's business,
Yeah.
and the family business is Karat and Co,
Yes.
and this is in Queens.
Correct.
I want to talk a little bit about that. You know, you talked about your dad migrating here, and I'm sure you know his story is amazing, and I want to kind of get into how that came about to where you are right now. So when was Karat and Co founded?
So Karat and Co starts back. This year would be 40 years, so
Oh, it's
1983.
amazing. Wow.
My dad, when he immigrated over to the United States, he was attending business school in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And he took any money he had from coming from Taiwan. And this is like when Taiwan just became like, you know, it's not even a few generations long. So he didn't really have money. He came over to the United States to try to build a better future for himself. While he was at school, he used all his money for tuition. So imagine your classmate in college. My dad was basically a janitor. He was working a janitor, and then on the weekends, like one of his friends was like, "Hey, like I got some jewelry and some like inexpensive watches, like $5 analog, like digital watches. Like, do you want to come with me to the flea market in Jersey, and we'll sell them, and then you know, whatever you make, you keep it with you." And that's basically where my dad built his business. And at that time, it was called Allen's Jewelry. My dad's name is Allen. Really funny segue that has nothing to do with anything, but one time I was wearing, like, I have a jacket that says Minuteman on it, and then my dad was like, "Oh, you're a Minuteman, so I'm Hourman," and I'm like,
Nice.
"That doesn't make sense." But I was like,
That's good.
But I love that because like his name is Alan and it sounds like Hourman, like it kind of all works in together.
that.
It feels so like
It's a
interconnected
good way
in a way.
good way for dad to trump son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think the coolest thing too is like we interview so many guests, and when they kind of talk about just the inception or the love affair that they've built off of watches, it comes from their parents.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we had Curtis on the show, and like, you know, Curtis had talked about on Hodinky, he was like, "Hey, like I inherited a Rolex. It was my granddad's watch." Or Dana, and she was like, "Oh, this is my granddad's watch." And
Yeah,
it was
the
like a
whole
Rolex.
the whole theme of like lineage, I think,
Of
is
lineage
like really
and, like,
interesting for sure.
Just like things that are passed on to you. And the biggest question I like to ask to put things into perspective, because like, you know, so many of these brands, you know, AP, Rolex, Patek are status symbols, but you know, common people, hardworking people that have like, you know, built so much. We talked about the pyramids off camera, you know, which is another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But like, you know, building something from nothing is the story that we find so much for all of our guests that sit on this couch. And it speaks so much volumes, because I want our listeners, our viewers to understand that, you know, these things weren't a status thing at one point. This was accessible to, you know, the guy that immigrated from Taiwan, or, you know, granddad that worked on the ship and he wasn't a first mate.
Yeah.
He was the guy that was like scrubbing the deck,
Yeah.
you know, and he wore Rolex. You know, it wasn't this like big hedge fund guy that's making like, you know, X amount of $1 million
Well,
a year.
I think you know the point that you're making is that, like, you know, maybe it wasn't a status symbol, but it was the reward.
It was a reward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I think still today, it's something that people aspire to own.
Absolutely.
You know, one day. But, you know, getting back, so my dad, he was like going to the flea market on the weekends. He was building and learning his business skills through there. And, you know, he was selling like $5 watches. And to put that into context, like some of the watch brands today consider my dad like a king of tourbillons, because he could
Really?
sell like more than 24 tourbillons in a year just by
Wow.
himself. But later on, he started opening his stores. He met my mom, and my mom and him married, and they started opening their own stores called Karat Jewelers, basically.
And they were
Karat and
were they
Karat,
already
actually.
were they selling watches at that time? Like, I know he started with watches, but because Karat and Co kind of implies like jewelry.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So, like, if you think of Karat and Co, you think of like diamonds, and
Yeah.
you're probably thinking of like,
Yeah.
you're probably thinking we like ice out watches at the or something, right? Like, but no, we're like an authorized dealer for all the brands we carry. But so my dad and mom, they had multiple stores throughout New York, like in Long Island, and then eventually they landed onto Flushing. And at that time, like this is over 2 decades ago, Flushing wasn't like the Chinatown we know today.
Sure.
Like Flushing now is one of the biggest growing cities inside Queens, right inside New York. The street our store is on Main Street, it's one of the busiest streets after Times Square in Manhattan. That's how busy the foot traffic is. We're one stop from Citi Field, one stop from Arthur Ashe, 10 minutes from LaGuardia, 20 minutes from JFK. Like we just
And this is where
center.
you currently are still.
And this is currently where we are.
Okay.
We've been for 2 decades at least now, and we plan to stay here in Flushing forever. My mom and dad, once they built their store in Flushing, they realized the potential and that they were able to cater to like Chinese immigrants and like other business owners. And that's where they built their foundation with the locals there. And so, you know, I can flash forward now today. That's why we were able to build like a 3-story building with over 25 different luxury watch brands and jewelry brands as well. Cartier, Omega, Vacheron, a lot of Richemont, a lot of Swatch Group, and then we have like Grand Seiko.
So is it fair to say that your parents were catering to a community that wasn't being catered to?
In Flushing, yes, because in like as you guys know, that China is like one of the biggest markets for luxury goods in general,
for
right?
sure.
100%.
So like to have a store in Flushing makes a lot of sense because you're going to the people. And, you know, my parents could relate to them because they also immigrated over. And so it was like this connection that they built with all the people locally.
It was a cultural foundation that was established
Exactly.
when they opened the doors.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. And so what were some of the, I guess, the inaugural brands that you can remember as a kid, which I find interesting, right? So it's like they built this business, they're working on this empire, and then little D Money is coming up.
Yeah.
Right, and running around the store figuring things out. Where was it in all of this that you were like, oh, watches, I get it?
Yo, it's not the story you would expect, actually. I think like when I tell a lot of people I kind of grew up in this industry, it's because I've been around the industry, my family store. I would go there like every weekend as a kid. But there was a long time I actually didn't care about watches. Like I would tell my parents like, why would people spend thousands of dollars for this this BS? Like you have like I really had that mindset. And over time, like obviously it kind of changed a lot. But the big changing point for me was after I graduated from college, I was working for another company. I was living in Atlanta. So I was like riding this high. I was like, man, I just graduated college. I got my degree. I'm working for another company, a Fortune 500 company, and I'm in Atlanta, like a whole new city. It's a lot of fun. And then one day I got a call from my dad, and he's like, oh, your mom, we just found out she has like stage 4 cancer. Like, would you consider coming back? And when he called me, I could just hear it in his voice, and I was like, yeah. And I literally resigned that same day.
Wow.
Literally flew back. And when I came to see my mom, it was like, it just like hit me so hard that I was like, yo, I've really been so spoiled my whole life because of my parents' hard work. Like they, you know, because they were always watching the store and making sure the business was running well. Like that's why they couldn't be at like my baseball game growing up or like going to my orchestra, whatever. Right. And like, and now my mom needs help. Like, obviously I have to come to her aid, like no question about it. And it made me realize like my mom and dad put their whole life to turn everything around for me and my sisters. Like my sisters were already in the business straight out of college. So it was only me who was like the problematic kind of youngest child. The rebel.
Sure.
And when that happened, I was like, you know what, like I need to get back to my family. So I came back to New York, and that whole year, this is like 2015, I stayed at home with my mom. I took another job at a mall. I was working for like Adidas. I was there when like the Yeezys dropped, and I was like, oh wow, I had like the first Turtle Doves and the Pirate Blacks at that time because I was like helping as a store manager in a mall. Okay. But then, you know, I took that job because it's close to home, and that way I can go to the house and like check on my mom and everything. And then after she passed, like in December of 2015, I told my dad, like, I'm going to come January 1st, 2016. I'm coming to the store. I'm going to come help out. I'm going to help pick up everything that, you know, mom left behind and just go on from there. And one of the most beautiful things is like every once in a while, we'll have customers that come in and be like, oh, you're like Lisa's son, right? Like, I'm like, yeah. And they'll tell me like a really beautiful story about like how my mom helped them with something. Wow. That's when I say like, it's like my life. Like, now I'm here. I'm like, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going anywhere. Karat and Karat became Karat and Co. when my sisters and I joined. because now it's like a company.
Yeah.
Versus Karat and Co were like my mom and dad, Alan and Lisa. So like that's how, yeah. But like growing up, I've met a lot of like the brand presidents we know today, like Reynold Ashleman from Omega, the CEO. At that time, he was vice president, and like I have pictures with hanging out with him when I was like a young kid.
Wow.
Like he was like taking me skiing at one of the Olympics. Like this one of the watches I brought here is the Omega Seamaster Professional. It's 40th anniversary of James Bond. It's one of the first watches my parents like bought for me and saved for me, and they didn't give it to me till like I graduated college.
Okay.
But this watch has been with me to every Olympic game that I've been to. So
Oh wow.
since 2008, I've been to Beijing. 2010, it was Vancouver. 2012, London. 2014, Sochi. 2016, Rio de Janeiro. So this watch has always been there. Obviously, I put a mesh bracelet, so it kind of looks like the new 60th
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was
But
like,
like,
This bracelet too is like super reinforced. It's like facet this and click that
Yeah.
and lift this. But this is really good. What year was this released?
I can't remember. I mean, if this year is 20, okay, actually now I know. If this year is the 60th anniversary of James Bond, it was 20 years ago.
Wow.
So that's literally like 2003 or early 2000s.
This piece is absolutely stunning. I do remember talking about this timepiece, and a good friend of mine was like, I don't like the 007 in the dial.
Yeah.
And then it's like the big like 007 plaque. But now looking at it, man, this is really
might
good.
take your watch, Derek. Watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I've been on the hunt for like a Bond Seamaster. This
Nice.
is
Let me see that thing.
oof.
Yeah.
This is actually really good.
And then
So was it this that kind of intrigued you at first? Your parents present you this, and was this the rabbit hole for you?
I just have a lot of memories with this watch, and I remember like, you know, like when a lot of people buy their first watch, if it's a diver watch, they don't really like know how to use the dive functions or like X, Y, and Z, these things. And I remember early on like knowing exactly what my diving bezel was for, like what I needed for. And it's just been with me on so many different trips that I was like, this is definitely a watch I have to bring in. And then my parents even, you know, in Chinese culture, the number 8 is really lucky. So the serial, like the last 2 digits of the serial is 88.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that lucky kind of
Yes,
thing they
yes.
passed on to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they get you this, and then it's very clicky. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the action is very good.
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't realize like the dial has the
The
007
through
Yeah.
it, yeah.
yeah, all
Yeah.
through it. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you entered the family business to help your dad with your sisters. You're wearing this every day, I imagine.
Yeah.
And
pretty
then,
much.
correct me if I'm wrong, at some point you get the bug to get yourself another one.
Yeah. I mean,
Let's
once-
talk about that.
like once I started working full time in the store, my mind just started to expand, and like my personality is that type where I don't really like do things super casually. Like when I get into an activity or hobby, I like get really into it. So it's the same with watches. Like even now when I make content, like I don't just like record and film. Like I actually want to make really fun content. Like I get really into things. But started with this watch. Now my collection is like around 20 watches, so not like 50.
I was gonna ask how many watches you own.
But like 20, which
That's
I think is a
good.
lot.
That is a lot.
It's a
20
lot.
is a lot.
I used to rotate a lot of my watches, like once, you know, one watch every day, so I'll wear one every whatever, like, you know, once a month. But then I realized that I only wear like 3 to 5 of them out of the whole month, and some of them just kind of sit there, and I do play with them and wind them up
Sure.
every once in a while. But one of the next watches I bought, it's not the second watch I had. There were some other pieces, but like this one's a significant one to me. It's the Grand Seiko GMT. It's the reference number SBGM235. I mean, the Grand Seiko nerds out there know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
they do.
Yeah. This is the dial to have. too.
Yeah, dude. I remember I was in Japan when I saw this. It just launched, and I saw the dial, and they basically did this mosaic spiral, and then
Okay.
they wrote G and S, and they had this little lightning bolt symbol, which is for Daini Seikosha, which is Seiko's like second factory.
Yes.
And that's where they started doing their mechanical watches. So I like that little history, and I just, obviously you guys know Grand Seiko's dials are beautiful, like especially at the price point, the value, and this was one of the most worn watches I had in my collection for like since 2018 till like for at least a couple of years. I was wearing it nonstop every day. It's kind of like a dressy format, even though it's not like a thin dress watch. But I've like taken it to Paris and like all of my out of country trips, and I mean GMT, so it's literally perfect for that.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's just,
like your
exactly.
Pepsi.
It's like it's
dial
the watch to
is
go to when you're
absolutely
traveling.
Stunning, very, to point out what you said, just like the GS and like, because you look at a piece like this, something about Grand Seiko. There are some nuances about their pieces that they'll drop, and then they just won't come back again. So like, today that would be like, the Peacock or the latest like, what's that? The Kurzuri Dow? Is that what that one is?
This one's a little bit different, but yeah.
Like that,
Similar in that realm.
blue GMT that they did as well.
Yeah.
And you won't see that again.
I hope not, actually, because I really like this style, and some like they redid the Peacock, and I love the original one with like that emerald green. It's so nice.
Yeah.
But like this just fit my, like I wear a lot of suits for work, so this is like perfect, and I just love, like I said in the beginning, I love.
And you threw it on a rubber strap.
Yeah, I put on a rubber strap to make it more casual and just like easy for day to day. So just to
It works. It makes it more sporty.
it.
Kind of dresses it down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's super niche.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, guys.
and very special.
Yeah.
This is something that's not pedestrian at all. It's like, okay, like, oh, I thought I've seen this from Grand Seiko before, and then you go, look closer.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Look closer.
My God.
So you take over you step into the family business rather. How many locations do you guys have now?
Just one. That store right on Main Street is our single location.
But you guys had multiple locations before.
Yes. Yeah. We used to. I don't know the exact number, but I remember we had a few in Long Island. But then once we went into Flushing, that's where we
Kind of consolidated and just went.
Yeah. That's
with
why we
the
built a
flagship.
three-story
Three
one.
stores, so we got the whole building rather than just multiple locations.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's already a lot to manage every day. Like, there's just so many things going on.
Yeah.
In one location, like.
So when you and your sister stepped in to help your dad, did you guys kind of like split up sections of the business to own? Like, what did you see as like your mission to kind of be responsible for?
So yeah, my sisters, I have two older sisters, Melissa and Tiffany. Melissa did a lot of like the accounting, HR, kind of like the internal works, because I think that's like what she specializes in. Tiffany does like some marketing. She does like after service. She helps a little bit everywhere, I should say, and she does sales and jewelry as well. And then for me, I just like went all in on watches. So like, I do watches. I do marketing. Minuteman's my own page that's separate from Karat and Co, because I wanted to express like what I find interesting in watches, and I didn't feel like I could do that through Karat and Co.'s page because it was monitored by the brands.
Sure.
So like the brands want you to post a certain image or a certain watch.
They all
the
have their
time,
requirements, yeah.
which makes sense because that's the official storefront, like that face. But I was like, okay, like let me make Minuteman where I can like just talk about watches in my own way and like.
That's cool. And I'm curious, did you start to see when you're then building the Minuteman brand? Did you start to see that have a positive impact on your business?
Yeah, it did. I mean, like my goal was never to like just drive sales, like make content drive sales. If it was, my content would be so different. It would be like everything would just be in stock. You know those pages I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
But it's more like there was a time where I didn't even put the prices in my reels because I just like didn't want people to think about money or like that whole aspect. But then I started getting people who are new to watches, like. There's always, you guys probably know this too. You always get people coming up to you like, oh, I'm interested in watches, but I want to learn about it. And so I realized that I had to cater to these people who are new coming in. Giving them a price gives them some context about like, this is how much this is priced. And this could be a good or a bad thing. Like maybe a Grand Seiko price at this price means that, oh, damn, there's a lot of value in this.
I think that is what's really cool, actually, now that you mentioned that about the content that you create is that it is informative while also being like incredibly approachable, and it's still lighthearted and fun. Like it's and that's I think that's part of the reason why like it is so successful, right? Like when I think about a lot of the watch content that I was consuming, and And listen, there's a lot out there and there's a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of the same thing. And a lot of it kind of like, especially if you're just getting into it, initially it kind of makes you feel like you don't have a place there, or you're not knowledgeable enough. And so you shouldn't really be consuming this content. And you're coming from a whole nother perspective where it's like, yo, if you're interested, then this is a platform for you. You're going to find something here. And so I could imagine that being incredibly impactful for your business. And what's interesting is hearing you kind of talk about that reminded me of how we met, which I think is really, really funny. So one of my best friends went and bought a watch from you.
King Seiko.
Yeah, he bought Eddie. Shout out to Eddie.
Shout out
Eddie, I've known Eddie since the 2nd grade.
Damn.
Me and Eddie's sister were friends first.
Yeah.
We traded gigapets. That's how
my
far
God.
back we go. And then Eddie, you know, as you know, often happens with childhood friends, the ones that you get closest with, your families kind of, you know, mix in together. And that's what happened with Eddie's family, my family. So I've known Eddie for a while. So he goes, he visits your shop because he sees us talking about this watch online, starts searching where he can find it. Karat and Co.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goes to see you, and then he texts me after. First, you know, he sent me a wrist shot.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I spoke to this guy Derek. I told him about your show. We're gonna get him on your show." Like Eddie's like acting like he's like an agent. And he's like, "All right, we're gonna set you guys up."
Wow.
And it's so funny, but he had such an amazing time with you. And this is a guy, and it's proof of concept, right? Because this was a guy who, you know, may have had interest in watches.
Yes.
And was watching, you know, us sort of do our thing with the launch of Wrist Check Pod, and then decided, you know, I'm doing well. I want to celebrate something. I've got milestones that are coming up. I want to buy a watch.
Yeah.
And saw the show. Was like, I want a King Seiko. Found his way to you, and had such an amazing experience that he left thinking like, I'm gonna set these guys up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude. Yeah, that was a really cool moment too, because I think at that time, that was a whole year ago. That was like when I really started like just dipping my feet into doing short form video content and reels. And I remember I was at the Seiko show and I saw the King Seikos, and that was like a big launch because they finally made them smaller and X, Y, and Z.
And it was a fire piece.
Yeah, like the dials
really
are nice.
Really
like
good. Really good.
So I like made a reel like really quick and easy about it. And like to your point too, like the foundation of what Wrist Check Pod 2 is like very similar to what Minuteman is. Like you guys are passionate about watches. You want to communicate that outside of just like what people know. Like it doesn't help that like the mainstream media is always talking about like watches as like a secondary investment or something like, you know, and like we're here to just talk about watches because we enjoy them. And, you know, that's what we both have in common to like do that for our audiences, which is awesome.
But I think, you know, what's awesome too is I'm a big proponent of mom and pop shops.
Yes.
And here's something that you've taken on that your parents have built. And I think it says a lot, man. I mean, talking about, you know, you kind of stepping in your mother's shoes, and then you're meeting all of these people who have such incredible things to say about her. And now you're kind of fulfilling that legacy yourself, because here it is, someone that I grew up with that I know very well comes to me and tells me about you and this amazing experience he had at your family's establishment. I think says a lot about the culture that you guys have created at Karat and Co. And it's something that you should absolutely be proud of. This is pretty incredible,
dude,
what you guys have accomplished. So
Yeah.
big shout out to your dad, to your mom, to your sisters, and to you. But no, that's really, really awesome. I remember how excited this guy was.
Yeah.
And he got the cherry doll, which was one of my favorites.
so-
Between that and the purple one,
And the
that
purple
was
one, I was gonna say purple
those
one.
were fire.
Yeah.
The coolest thing too is, you know, when I do speak to people about watches, you know, off camera, etc., and you know, out in the wild in my other life.
Everyone's gonna say, "What other life?" Is he living?"
No, but I feel like, you know, for the people that do meet us, they understand, you know, people like Wrist Check Pod, you know, Karat and Co, and you know, the Minuteman brand. It's like we have an obligation to the watch community to do right by the community.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, for people like us, we champion that and we trophy that and we appreciate that. You know, it's easy to do the clickbait stuff and the how do you get a Rolex and whatever. Like that's easy to do, but how much of a disservice are we doing to the community that has been underserviced for a very long time?
Yeah. Like to add to your point too, it's like people who make that kind of content, they don't have staying power at the end of the day. Like how far can you take that conversation?
Yeah, seriously.
And like keep your audience interested. Like it's fine, you throw it in once in a while, but like, you know, you were mentioning to me, I was asking you off camera too. I was like, how did Wrist Check Pod start? And you're like, you know, I saw people making content about watches. I was always passionate about it, and I thought, you know, I could add to this conversation and do something different. That's exactly how I felt too, because I mean, there were some other YouTubers and other people in the media who talk about watches, and I always felt like it was always coming from the consumer side, and there's not a lot of people talking from like being an authorized dealer side. There's very few.
Yes.
Like, so I was thinking like, well, there are some things I could shed light on or like bring to the table that people don't even think about because they're not working in it day in, day out. They're just watching and absorbing from other people say things, and that's what they know. But like, what about someone who's like grew up in there or like work with it every day and they understand these like all these little nuances and
seriously,
stuff like that.
Yeah, because how many, I mean, like you said, how many videos can you make about how to get a Rolex? At some point, after video 10, I've either gotten it and I don't want, I'm good. I don't need to see it anymore, or I haven't and I'm just frustrated and I don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. How much homework? I mean, how much homework have you done? Let's say, for example, like, you know, we've had guests that talk about like Rolex forums. Like, there's like OG collectors, or, you know, the forums at one point probably still is, but like it was like a safe haven for people that wanted to learn, and it wasn't this like this place where, you know, you felt out of place. Have you indulged in like the forums? Have you like intermixed with like, you know, kind of like the mass majority of people?
Right. Like, just like going, you know, jumping into the deep end with the wild.
Exactly.
I haven't actually like been active on any forums. The only one I've been on is like the Grand Seiko Owners Club group, which is on Facebook, because that was like the time in like 2016 onwards where I started to be interested in watches myself. And I just like the whole story with Grand Seiko because I feel like they're an underdog in the industry. All the industries like Swiss or, you know, was it German? Not really like a lot of Japanese luxury, which was really interesting to me at the time. So that was the only kind of forum I joined in, and that's where I met like a lot of great friends and eventually customers of my store. Like, there's too many to shout out, but shout out to the whole group because they've been super supportive. And they've seen like my channel grow and my business grow, and they're still to this day super supportive. And even brands like Grand Seiko see that too. And Grand Seiko's let me do like GS9 events with them, like my own event.
Yeah,
I
did one
you guys
recently. You did one in Brooklyn last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that wasn't my event, but that was Grand Seiko's event. But then like 1 month before that, I held a GS9, like a mini event in Flushing. So like we had like a packed, you know, we were at a bar, Leaf Bar in Flushing, and it was packed, and it was a lot of fun.
I think there's something to be said for that too, because you have been doing a lot of events, and you've kind of figured out a way between Minuteman and Karat and Co. It seems like to bring the two together, right? In the sense of, obviously the Karat and Co page is focused on the business, and that has a very, you know, particular format and how you deliver content to your clients while also supporting the brands. But it also seems like the brands take a liking to you because of the initiative that you've taken in terms of like, you know, garnering like an audience. Because I remember like attending the Zenith event at Phillips. You know what I'm saying? And the way everyone kind of came around you, you know, you're kind of like their champion, you know, like no, seriously though. It's like, you know, the way you were able to put that together, and the folks that you were invited, and how you sat everyone together, it was very well curated. But to also see like this, you know, brand as big as Zenith, you know, that's backed by LVMH, right? Hosting an event at Phillips and saying we're going to do a dinner event with Derek Mon, and he's going to invite his guests, was very encouraging to see, because when oftentimes I think when people think about these big brands, they think about big ADs.
Yes.
Right. And so to see that some of these companies are saying, no, we like mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
We like entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We like this very much. They understand their audience. They know their clients better than we know. We trust them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's bring them into the family. I thought was really nice.
Yeah. Sorry, Rashawn, you missed out that time.
You did.
You were busy that
I
day.
did. I missed out. I mean, you know,
That was a great event.
Yeah, that was good.
it does speak volumes because, you know, when you think of watch jewelry shops, you think of Fifth Avenue, you think of Midtown,
Right.
and now you started to think of downtown in Soho with the few jewelers that are down there. And, you know, I'm Brooklyn born and raised. You know, you're from the Bronx. We're from like inner city. You know, even for yourself, you think of Queens and Flushing. That's inner city.
5 boroughs.
It's the 5 boroughs. It's like, it's something that, like, you know, when you think of like high-end jewelry or like just like horology, etc., you're like, oh, I'm gonna go down to Fifth Avenue. I'm gonna go to, you know, Vacheron on Fifth Avenue. I'm gonna go to Tiffany, etc., and all these kind of things. But you do have Karat and Co, which, like, you know, is in our backyard, which some people aren't exposed to.
Yeah.
And it is a safe place because you've created that,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
And I think that was kind of the point that I was trying to make too, where I was asking sort of, you know, if you were catering to a community that wasn't being catered to.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it kind of seems like you were, and even if it wasn't intentionally, it was, you know, it came from the heart, it came from a place of passion, but the people kind of galvanized around you. And it sounds like, well, at least they galvanized around your parents, and it seems like you're carrying on
yes.
that tradition.
Yes.
Continuing on our journey in horology, because, you know, there was a time when you didn't care about watches, and your parents gave
So
you an
wild to
Omega,
say that,
and you
right?
found yourself
I know,
to a
like,
Grand
you-
Seiko, and, you know, this guy who never cared about timepieces has a Vacheron overseas.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I was
So
gonna
that
s-
escalated quickly.
See, I was good. That's why I had to, you know, preface it like, look, there was a time. I want to be honest about my journey. Like, there was a time I did not care, but like, obviously, I care deeply. You can't fake authenticity.
You can't
Yes.
fake
You know what I'm
Yes.
talking about?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that's real now for me, and I'm deep in this game now.
You are deep. This
so
is a great piece. So you
this
got
is-
you got a Vacheron overseas, time only.
Yep.
This is a Vacheron Overseas 4500V blue dial before it became boutique only.
Yeah.
The story about this watch is I was telling you guys off camera. Me and my wife Katrina just got married last year in 2022.
That's right. Congratulations. Shout out to
And-
Katrina.
Thank you
Yes.
guys. And we got matching Vacheron Overseas. So she has the ladies version, and then I have the men's version. I mean, I would
I
love.
love that.
Yeah.
Matching Vacheron.
Yeah, right.
overseas.
Yeah, right. So boss.
Oh,
So
my God.
boss.
Yeah. But that's why I'm happy to bring it to show it to you guys, because like these
This
are
thing
like
is beautiful.
these are like some watches that just stand out to me. There's so much to talk about, and I just remember all the times I've been wearing them and to what events. But like with Vacheron as a brand, like talking about them really quick, I remember my dad was telling me that, you know, to get one of the biggest brands that came into the store was actually Piaget. So
Okay.
when Piaget came into our store, that's when like the floodgates opened, and that's when Vacheron came in, and that's when brands like Cartier
Wow.
wanted to come in. And so my dad is always like, he's really thankful to brands like Piaget from Richemont Group that they gave us the chance, they gave us
Yeah.
a shot, because we wouldn't have all these other, you know, exposure to like high horology with Vacheron, and then like one of the top 5 brands in the world, Cartier. You know, we talk about Rolex, but you know, Cartier and Omega, number 2 and 3, that's still huge brands. And
Yeah.
even Longines is
Huge.
is in the top 5, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
insane
it is.
too.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Like,
And
so-
you're a big proponent of Cartier. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos, obviously.
yeah, I really love what they're doing, and I think that Cartier has so many interesting things, because a lot of the other watch brands, they talk about their movement a lot, or like this and that, but Cartier like tries to like their designs are so iconic.
They
Like,
are.
It sounds so on the nose to say that, but like that's the best way to.
But I mean, they have so many hits.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, you think
exactly.
about like everything from like the Santos even to the Tank.
the tank,
Yes.
right?
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yes,
And-
yes,
and,
yes.
and
The Panther.
the Panther.
Panther,
I mean, there are just so many.
Yeah.
You know, and just in terms of what they've contributed to design, I think is incredible. But
Yeah.
also like, what's awesome that a lot of people end up discovering, typically when they purchase their first Cartier, is that there's a lot of horological history here as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of contributions that they've made to horology, and there are these little, stories behind the pieces that you wouldn't even think. We talk about all the time with like the Demont, which is so mind blowing that this piece that's today is treated like as an amazing dress watch was actually a sports watch. This was a leisurely watch, that was worn by a gentleman who was a pilot and wanted something that he could read while flying that looked equally as good if he attended a party. Like it's just that simple. Like, talk about finding a problem and offering a solution.
Right. Yeah.
Even the Mysterios. I didn't know that the Mysterios had dated back to like the 50s and the 60s. Because Janet has shared it. Shout out to Janet from Sotheby's. She had shared one in our latest Wrist Check Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a good one.
and the thing is, like, even still thinking about, and we've talked about technology, and just like ancient civilization, of course, like off camera.
Sure, yeah.
But like, just tapping into that, like thinking of like the technologies that was available in that time period. You think of the perpetual calendar, you think of the tourbillon, you think of all these
I think
other
it's
things.
funny, but I think when you look back in there's obviously there's a lot of innovation that's happening today with watches.
Yes.
But when you look back in history, I think it's kind of amazing to look at all the leaps that were taking place in terms of like developing movements or even design leaps, right? I mean, you can go to the Demont is a great example, and even watching the evolution of the Santos. So you get to the 70s when steel sports watches are becoming a thing, and then they throw a bracelet on there and blow everyone's mind that way. It's incredible. So you escalate quickly. You get the Vacheron.
Yeah.
You and the missus, congratulations, have a matching set. And then Derek goes, you know what? I'm put my name on the list for an AP.
Yeah.
What was it about this watch in particular on your wrist that I get it, like the monochromatic design, I'm right here with you because there's something about an AP. The bracelet is perfect, the case, and it's funny because we've talked about this before. There was a time where I was like, I don't know if I'm an AP guy.
Yeah.
And then you put one on.
You
get it. Yeah. But there's something to it that it's so simple, but with the gray dial, the uniformity that exists, it's almost like, I think in terms of watches, I often think about case and bracelet or case and strap. And you don't really think about a Royal Oak that way.
Yeah.
A Royal Oak is kind of just like together by itself, something singular.
I agree.
Right? It doesn't feel like it's made up of many parts. It feels like it was just born that way.
Yep.
And but you decided to get, you put your name down for a chrono. Was there a couple of models you put your name down for? Or were you set on that, like this was the one you wanted to go after?
So I visited the AP boutique. I actually went to the AP house first, and I got to that was the first time a friend of mine, Eric Loomshot, he brought me as a guest to the 50th anniversary party last year, and so I got to meet a lot of cool people there. I got to meet Cole Walliser, the guy who does the Glambot.
Oh yeah.
And he was he was really cool guy too. And I got to meet a lot of people who were collecting APs, and I was thinking you know what? Maybe I should try to just put my name down and see what happens. So, through some referrals, I met this guy, Kevin, who's at the boutique. And, thanks to Kevin for considering me and, helping me get this one. But I did put my name down for some other pieces. Obviously the Royal Oaks were my first choice.
Sure.
So it was this one. There's the 15550 to 37 millimeter, which you were wearing the 15450.
15450.
Yeah, which I still love the size. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
It's so good. The size, the proportions of that watch.
It really is. No, the 37 millimeter Royal Oak is
so
fantastic.
good.
I don't think you need anything above a 38, 39 really in a Royal Oak.
Yeah, for sure.
The smaller the better.
I
to
agree.
be honest, it becomes something else. And congratulations, dude. That's awesome. I'm glad that worked out for you. What I love about the company too is, you mentioned going to AP House. We visited often. And you even talked about going to 57th Street. I've been there a couple of times. AP is one of those brands that are so sought after, so in demand, that it can be a little intimidating to engage them. But what's been incredibly surprising to me is getting to know them. And I've never had anything but an amazing experience with the people who work at AP. I mean, even, shout out to Jenny Wright. She's the North American CEO. Yeah. I've shared a couple of words with her, and anytime I'm at an event and she's there, she walks up to me, she says hi, she remembers my name.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yep. It really is, because you don't expect that from the CEO of a company this large, a company this esteemed. And all of the events that they're doing in terms of, building and fostering a community, and them not taking the position like we're AP, we don't have to mix with everyone's watch group, but they decide to do it anyway. I think it speaks a lot about that brand, and they're pretty incredible. So, it's one of those brands that when you wear it, you're proud to wear it, because the culture of the company says a lot.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some people who say like every serious collector should collect a Royal Oak. One of those like fun jargon things, like you gotta have a Speedmaster, gotta have a Royal Oak.
But you should.
Yeah, you really should.
You really should.
Yeah,
you gotta like try it
good.
on. It's
when you
it's
do,
great.
when you try it on, you get it. You say, man, this is something. I get it.
For sure.
It is, it is one of the most perfect sports watches.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I had also put my like interest down for like the Code 1159 and also the
I think what they're doing
too.
with the Code is amazing.
Code
The
is
new
dope.
Code is cool.
The new
I've
Code
seen
is
those in
great.
person.
Code
Yeah.
is dope.
Yeah. I like what they're doing with the new direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity for AP, there's a lot of like reprogramming and like getting people to understand that buying a brand is different than buying into a brand.
Sure.
And AP is one of those brands that you have to buy into.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a dollar amount.
Yeah.
It's a story that's told.
Yeah.
Remember, AP makes very, very small quantity of watches.
Yeah, they do.
For you to own this watch, you are in the company of Serena Williams, Kevin Hart, LeBron James, Fremstar.
Shout out to Fremstar.
Shout out to Fremstar. And all of these individuals that it's like, you should own a Code 11.
Yeah.
You should have an offshore. You should have all of these prerequisites before you go into what is called the hype pieces.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's merited.
Mm-hmm.
It should be. And for any other brand, I think another brand that we kind of, give their flowers to is like Patek. Patek is another family, when you buy into that brand, you feel like you're a part of a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's very important. And AP has been able to do so.
No, definitely.
It's amazing.
So talking about community, we frequent a lot of watch events. I run into you all the time. We have a lot of colleagues and friends that we share.
Yeah.
But the theme that I hear with what your parents started and what you're continuing, it all centers around community. And we discovered you have a dancing background.
Yeah.
So you had
Go there. We was gonna go there.
before watches, you
Yeah.
fostered a community of breakdancers.
Yeah.
Talk
so-
a little bit about that and your passion for that, because that, for those that don't know, that is a New York City sport.
Yes.
And
it is.
it's going to be an official Olympic sport starting 2024 in Paris.
Amazing.
So I hope I can go and watch.
That would be incredible.
Because I got friends who are actually Olympic level and they're going to start competing.
Wow.
And so I'm like super
Look at
excited.
where the culture has gone to. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been fascinated with breaking. We call it breaking. A lot
Yeah.
the public knows as breakdancing, but for those in the culture, it's breaking. I started in 2010 when I was still in high school, and like I remember I've always been fascinated with it, but it wasn't until one of my friends, this guy moved from Jersey into my school, and he was like the only b-boy in my whole school.
Yeah.
And so he started like a little club, and he started teaching all of us, and we just got our feet wet and just started from there.
That's awesome.
When I went to college, I just continued with it, And I honestly feel like breaking has made me a better person because it's disciplined. It's humbled me so fast.
Yeah.
Like if you think like you're hot shit, try doing like a breakdancing move, and then you realize like, oh, you gotta work.
Try
up
doing
to
it and
this.
watching yourself.
Yes.
Yo, and then you're watching yourself fail over and over and over. And I think like everything I learned, like the discipline with breaking, I still like correlate and carry that into like when I'm making content now. Like I think of rhythm a lot.
Yeah.
Like I think of like musicality. I know you're like, you guys are big on music too. And like, you know, when I make videos too, I try to think of like a certain flow. Like I want it to kind of feel like seamless. Like you get in and you get out, and it doesn't feel dry. You don't feel like, you know, your retention's like dropping and you're going to swipe away. So like I kind of think about those things and tie it into it. But yeah, when I was in college, I was like leading a dance crew there, and we got to like dance on the football field at Penn State. Like that's where I went to school. So Nittany Lions, if anyone's out there, is a Penn Stater as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I still love it. I haven't been dancing as actively now just because of work and everything. It's kind of hard to get out there. And also like as I'm getting older, I realize that like
body ain't moving the same.
Yo, I definitely picked up some injuries that I still have because of breaking. I'm like rehabilitating, but I'm doing like other sports now. Like I started running now, and I started lifting more weights and just like taking care of myself in other ways. And
wearing an Apple Watch.
Yeah, exactly. Wearing an Apple Watch, right? Yeah. Which is actually really useful
It
to
is.
track your steps.
It's perfect,
Strava,
especially in
like,
the gym.
all this kind of
magic.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to wear an Apple Watch.
I
I think it's
no.
if I wasn't into watches, I probably would only have an Apple Watch.
I
at
think
this
the
point.
Apple Watch is what's reinvigorated this industry.
Oh, for
to
sure.
be honest.
100%.
Once Apple figured out how to get watches back on people's wrists, people
Yeah.
started looking at other things and seeing what they could do. But speaking of that,
Yeah.
and we talked about this a little bit off camera earlier, you're headed to Watches and Wonders.
Yes.
So that's coming up, and as is the case with each one, everyone's got their predictions, you know, their leaks coming out, and so I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of go over that because we've been seeing some things. So I'm curious.
Ooh.
This will enter the prediction mode.
Let's do it.
Of
I'm so excited.
Watches and Wonders. So let's say you've seen some stuff. I'm sure you've heard some things.
Yeah.
What is something? Let's start. What's a brand you're looking forward to seeing what they have to offer this year?
Obviously, like everyone's gonna have their eyes on like Rolex,
Yep.
Tudor, Patek, like these big brands. Especially they're right in the middle of the big haul.
Yeah.
But I'm also like for my own brands in the store, Cartier, Vacheron, IWC. Just to name one, like we were talking about integrated sport steel watches, like IWC and the Engineer has to come back.
Yes.
Everyone's been talking about it. Like
It's coming back.
it's gonna come back for sure, 100%. I mean, like people are DMing me and telling me, "Hey, if you get one, put me on the list." I'm like, I don't even know what it is, when it is, but okay, like everyone's excited for it.
So
which is
can
good.
I tell you?
Tell me, please.
I saw it recently.
Oh shit.
I saw it on someone's wrist. It's big wrist.
Yeah.
Not size of wrist. I'm talking about who the wrist belongs to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was big.
So I'm
I
gonna
didn't
leave
get
it
to
at
see
that.
But I heard,
damn.
I was like, oh,
But,
I wish I seen it. I wish I seen
Yeah,
it.
no, I
Damn.
someone got an early piece, and this is I'll share it with you off camera. But I am happy to say that it is coming back.
Yep.
And what I saw, they killed it.
Oh,
It's
good.
gonna be one of the hot pieces of 2023.
Good for them, honestly,
Yeah.
because
So shout out to them.
yeah, because everyone's been wanting a new Engineer. Like they had the previous version, but it had deviated so far from like that Genta design. And
Yeah, and they're going back, and they're going back in a big way. And I'm talking about when they showed it to me, I was like, "Yo, that's crazy!"
Really?
Yeah.
They were like, "Can't talk about it." Yeah. that's all you're gonna get out of me.
Everyone knows.
Yes.
Everyone knows.
Yes.
It's not a secret.
What are you looking forward to, sir?
You know, I think for the past, because I think we've covered Watches and Wonders twice so far. This will be our third cover of Watches and Wonders, right?
I have to check.
I think this might be our third cover, but I'm gonna piggyback on you because usually I'm always excited about Rolex. Last year was very underwhelming and I wasn't feeling it. I'm excited to see what Tudor does.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put two brands in there. I'm gonna say Tudor And I think a brand that hasn't disappointed for the past 2 watches and wonders. This is going to be a curveball. Hermes.
It hasn't.
Hermes.
Hermes. I want to see what Hermes does.
Sure.
Nice.
I think the few pieces that Hermes has done, especially being GPHG winners and like blowing us away with the pieces that they've introduced, and then you start to find like older pieces start to resurface, and you're like, oh shoot, Hermes is doing this. Like,
I'll tell you who I'm looking forward to see Cartier for sure. I think
Me
Cartier had a
too.
really big year last year.
I think so.
I mean, several pieces. That like zebra enamel.
The Santos
Crash.
Dumont. Oh, and it crashed.
The
Yeah.
crash
Oh
was
my
fire.
that was crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
The Santos Dumonts that they released, those 3.
The
with
Mysterios.
with the enameling.
The Mass Mysterious. Yeah, that thing was
The
insane.
Mysterios, you know, the cushion case.
The cushion.
Like, those were fire.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of novelty, there was a lot of fanfare, and it was just hits.
Yeah.
It was like boom, boom, boom. Okay, like you guys came prepared with guns blazing.
Yeah.
So they had a really big year, and I'm curious to see what they do. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing what Patek is coming through with, because they just did a novelty release in November that I think caught most people by surprise.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm guessing, I'm hoping that they're leaning more on complications again with this novelty as opposed to sports models.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's going to be interesting. You know, there's rumors that Rolex is going to release a righty.
They
God.
it won't be hard. All they have to do is just flip the watch the way it was
watch
supposed to
upside
be.
Just turn the dial.
Flip,
Yeah, right?
flip the watch the way it was
There's
supposed to
rumors
be.
that they're gonna do a righty, which I think is actually really funny. I
Yes.
kind of feel like it shows that they
So
have
are
a
they
sense
gonna
of humor.
discontinue the lefty? And
I
then
don't
just
think
bring
they're
a
going to
righty?
discontinue it. If anything, I think what they do, if they do a righty, they make the righty precious metal,
Okay, that makes sense.
white gold.
When I saw that
That would
last
be cool.
year,
That would
yeah.
be cool.
When I saw that last year, I was like, this is like that when you're watching a movie and they throw in a twist for no reason.
And you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Why? This movie was so good already. Like, why did they throw in
Even
this
if
twist?
they made it just right-handed, it would have been totally fine. I think
Yeah.
it would have had a lot more impact. I think something about Rolex that they do, and I think they make really good product.
Sure.
But I do think that because of their demand, supply, and everything else, that they don't innovate as much. They don't need to.
I mean, it's just all incremental.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to feel that way. I've kind of grown to appreciate it because it's, you know, I think about like the movie American Gangster with Denzel
Denzel
Washington.
Denzel Washington, yeah.
When he's like, Kellogg's, that's a brand name.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Cheerios.
Yeah.
That's a brand, and it's just like
You know what you're gonna get.
Coca-Cola. That's
Yeah.
a Rolex is like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just one of those
Yeah.
companies that's like, we do what we do, and we do it great. We don't change much.
Yeah.
There's innovation that happens from time to time, but to be honest, they can rest their laurels on the fact that they have a history with so much innovation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
first waterproof watch, you know, GMT with the rotating bezel. Like, they've done so many amazing things that now it's kind of like they're cruising on their history
Yeah.
and they're introducing the masses to it. And I think, you know, listen, I do feel some way about it sometimes, but I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm hoping this is the year we see a Coke bezel GMT.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that would be
look forward
good.
to that.
That'd
I
be
would look
cool.
forward to that.
It's also the anniversary of the Daytona. It's the 60th.
Yeah.
70th anniversary of the Submariner.
Submariner.
So,
Yep.
You know, there are images going around of a yellow gold Hulk.
And a platinum Submariner too. I saw something
Platinum ice blue.
Yeah, I saw
That
that,
would
yeah.
be. I'm not even gonna lie. Platinum ice blue sub. It's kind of hot.
It'd be
Yeah.
nice if it had a brown bezel like the Platona.
No, they're doing ice blue bezel, ice
Yeah.
blue dial,
Ice
Platinum?
blue bezel? Ice
Yeah.
blue bezel?
bezel. Crazy.
I would like to see a brown bezel on a sub.
That'd be cool.
It could be cool.
Yeah.
I think that would be hot.
Yeah. They're
But I don't see Rolex. I don't think Rolex can do This is why I'm saying, like, Rolex, I don't think that they will innovate and add, like, a new color.
I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. They might, man. I mean, look, you look at what they did with the Deep Sea Challenge. They said, okay, finally, we're going to do titanium.
Yeah.
Bring it to market. I think you see a titanium sports model this year that's like not the size of a hockey puck.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Either a Daytona or a sub. Probably a sub.
More than likely a sub.
Or even maybe they do a titanium Yachtmaster. Who knows? You know, whatever it is, it's going to be big because of the anniversaries. I think it's also an anniversary for the Explorer 1. You know, they've been talking a long time about possibly seeing a yellow gold Explorer 1, which I think would be fire.
Solid yellow gold. Would
Solid
be
yellow
crazy.
gold.
Yeah.
They need it.
Explorer 1,
They need
that's
it.
hot.
That.
Like, I think everyone was kind of let down last year by Rolex. I
Yeah.
feel like
They're
this
gonna pick
year
it
is
up.
probably going to be a lot of heat.
Yeah.
They have to.
I think it's going to be a lot of heat.
They have to. If they don't,
I'm excited to see what Parmigiani does.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see them because I feel like they've been putting out a lot of heat. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Tudor, I mean, I think, we know what to expect. There's going to be more homage watches.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But
we'll see.
what they bring out the archives, I think, because like you were a fan of the Ranger, you were a fan of the Pro. I think FXD, not a fan of the Pelagos 39.
I'll tell you what, I'd bet money that it's going to be a dive watch.
Oh,
It'll be a blue
Yes.
Pelagos 39 or something.
You know what
like
would
that.
be cool though if they brought back out like the mini sub,
that'd be nice.
Tudor mini sub. Now remember last year
Yeah.
when I predicted Tudor,
You-
It came-
the
it happened.
Ranger.
You were spot
Yeah.
on.
I
Yeah.
said
You
the
were.
Ranger
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the did I say I didn't say a GMT though.
No, I think
Did we
you,
say
you said a
GMT?
GMT and a 39.
I did say a GMT in 39.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a 39 millimeter GMT.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be that thick.
But it still
Right.
wears nice though. Still wears
Yeah.
nice. Still wears
You know, the
nice.
first like comments I heard when I was there at Watches and Wonders and it launched, people were like, "Yay, a 39 millimeter GMT!" But they're like, "So you mean you could have made a Pepsi GMT the whole time in 39 because it's the same movement?" And like that's literally the comments I heard.
You know what I am gonna this I'm gonna throw something out there because you shouted out Longines.
Yeah.
I seen the pieces for Longines 2023, and maybe you have too.
I have, yeah.
Oh,
Dude, they're
tell
fire.
me.
They're
good?
fire, yeah.
It's
It
good?
would,
They're
listen,
so good.
if you never thought about Longines,
I'm like,
look into Longines this year. Oof.
Okay.
all I'll say is, without spoiling anything too, because we're under embargo or whatever, I think that, I think GMTs is a cool function to add back in now that people are traveling a lot more.
Yes.
And, that's all I'll say.
Yes.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see that.
Oh,
Man.
boy.
We
Long
did
I
get
might
to
have
see,
like 2 new long jeans this year, for sure.
we
I
got
agree.
to see
Yeah.
what Moser is doing. Moser's got a lot of heat coming.
Yes.
Ulysse Nardin's got some heat coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
I paid a visit to VJ and Josh Shanks recently to see what they're doing with Oris.
Nice.
And there's a piece that's coming that I think is going to excite a lot of people.
We know some people that might excite.
Yeah.
We know some people that's excited. And I have some pictures. I can't share it yet. It's under embargo.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I went back. I went to visit VJ and Josh for this Oris event. And I saw the novelties. And I was like, this is really cool. And, it's always just nice being around them.
Yes.
So you're caught up in the moment and you're just hanging out with the guys because they're so family oriented. And I took some pictures and I went back and I looked at my phone and looked at the picture and I was like, damn, that's kind of hot.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
I was like, that's kind of hot.
So we had a random conversation. Like Perry just like texted me out of nowhere and was like, what do you think about this? And we went back and forth. We talked for probably about 20 minutes. And I mean, I talk to Perry all the time. But
I
it was
didn't
just
know.
like-
So my thing was, I didn't, VJ's gonna watch this, he'll see. But I didn't know how it was gonna be received.
Yeah.
I was like, are people gonna get it?
Yeah.
And then I went back and I looked at the picture, and I was like, damn, it's good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
It's really good.
It's really good. It's really
It's good.
Yeah,
Damn.
it's really good.
So we got a lot to look forward to. It's exciting.
Like some of the things, I'm just going to rapid fire throw out things I want to see. So like from
Yeah, please.
Vacheron, I want to see them make a smaller overseas because they discontinued the 37 without diamonds. So there's only 37 diamonds, ladies, or 41. They need like a 38 or 39. And honestly,
38 would be great.
38 would be perfect. I'm sure those would be super hard to get. And then people are talking about a 222 in steel. I think it's too early for them to do it because when they did like the Historiques Corne des Vaches in yellow gold, they waited like 5 years before they brought a steel version. And I think they should still kind of follow that pattern. Maybe they'll bring back the Historiques Batman. It's like with the lugs that have the cowl of Batman, which is another Batman in the market. From JLC, I want to see like a Reverso tribute with dual face. Yeah. Because I like the layout of it. Like these are just things I personally want. Dual face tribute. On the other side has the dual time, so you can use it as a travel watch. And then a brand, Swatch Group is not in Watches and Wonders, but like Omega's not doing Omega Days this year. They're not doing a show. What I've heard from Omega is that they're going to start doing rolling releases. So when they announce something, they're not going to like announce it all in one shot. And I think from what we've seen last year, they're having some like product delays from like things like the Aquaterras.
Yeah, like the Aquaterras will just be delivering this year.
Moonshine,
the
We
moonshine.
just started seeing some of the moonshine.
Sedna Gold.
Yeah. So I think that they're probably shifting gears. I honestly feel like the Moon Swatch had something to do with why Omega's delayed. And I don't think it's confirmed, but because they're under Swatch Group, maybe they had to like funnel all their resources into making more Moon Swatches because they sold and exported like 1 million units.
I mean, when you look at those margins, it's probably a good choice.
They could have like, and I think the Moon Swatch could have been priced higher. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
That's like wild, and it like combines like the mass media with the watch industry, which is really interesting. But I'm always excited to see what Omega brings. Like I want to see Omega.
Well, they had a big year last year. You know, product delays production delays or not, like. When you go back to the Aquaterra sets, you go back to the Moonshine Gold Speedies, them releasing a minute repeating Omega Speedmaster last year. Then you talk about the Moon Swatches. Like 2022, they went full gusto. And listen, they came out on top. Omega had an amazing year of releases. And I think, at the very least, they've put themselves back in the conversation of being competitive with other watch companies that might be seen as, more premium than them. And it's like, no, guys, we really make watches. They had an amazing year. So it'll be interesting to see what little tidbits drop. I'm still expecting. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another Moon Swatch release right beforehand.
Oh my god!
Just to throw a curveball.
Moon Swatch, or do you think Blancpain Swatch?
I don't think you see a Blancpain Swatch.
Blancpain Swatch. What's that?
So apparently they have a prototype of a 50 fathoms.
Yeah. But in a swatch.
In a bioceramic. Bioceramic 50 fathoms. Yeah. I also heard that they made a Seamaster.
Oh, that's.
But just prototypes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. Right now, all we have is a gold seconds hand. But so
that was
there's not much to be seen for the rumors.
What the heck? Yes.
Yeah. Derek, this has been a privilege. I'm glad we got to have you tonight. This was long in the making, and I had a lot of fun.
Yes.
It's always great to sit down with a fellow New Yorker.
Yes.
And one with a storied career such as yourself, and just being able to hang out with you tonight and listen to your parents' story and see what they've accomplished and what they've built, and to watch you and your family carry that tradition, that legacy on, I think is incredible. And I love that it's New York bred.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
For me, that's incredibly important. We've had so many guests on the show that have, vicariously through watches created a life for themselves.
Yeah.
And very few of them are New Yorkers, tried and true. But so to have someone like yourself that's one of us is special.
Yeah.
So much appreciated.
Yo, thanks so much for having me again, man.
Yes,
Amen.
sir.
Yeah.
You guys know where to find us. Instagram at RiskCheckPod. You can watch and listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can follow Derek at Minuteman on Instagram. You can also find him at Karat and Co.
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And maybe the metaverse, right?
Maybe in the
metaverse. Yeah. Only fan. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Deuces.
Peace.
My man.